Thank you for coming. Okay, now another question. Who was already attending the first conference? Okay, Bernard, so half of the class. Yes. Okay. So that's it. I think I'm over with my introduction. Okay. So I'm Michel Safar. Most of you know me, and I'm very happy to welcome Jean-François to continue and introduce.
Okay, so we're going to start this conference. And no, you can talk 5 minutes to present the origin of the conference, cross-conference. And then we will have a presentation.
Yeah, I didn't do it, Bernard, so you have
okay.
to do it.
Okay.
Bernard.
First, happy to see all of you here. 3 years ago, we decided, because we know each other, we enjoy to meet, to make things together. We have thought to create this cross-conference. He's professor in HEC. Jean-François is professor in Centrale. And I am ex-Centrale and professor at HEC. So this has created the link between all of us. And so we invite in this conference some people which have been trained as engineers and create company in business to come and talk to business school, and people who had an academic business school to come and talk to engineer. And we think that for all of you. And so today I'm going to leave Jean-François handling the conference. Please feel free to ask all your questions. They are all here to bring you something. Have a good day.
Thank you. So we're going to have 3 speakers tonight. You have the agenda here. Yes, thank you. Yes. So 3 speakers, you have them here. We're going to start with Tristan, and then we will have Marie, and we will finish with Etienne. Okay? So first of all, maybe 10-15 minutes to talk about your journey in entrepreneurship. Why did you decide to create a company? What is your experience, the good things, the bad things, and 15 minutes, 15 minutes, 15 minutes, and then we will have questions from you guys. Okay? Tristan?
Yes.
Oh, you have one.
I'm supposed to be a specialist in video and audio, but I can't get a mic to work. Anyway, so thank you for letting me introduce my experience. I'm Tristan. I'm 38 years old. I graduated in 2003 from Centrale. I was part of the incubator of Centrale. So my whole professional life was to be an entrepreneur, which I'm very proud of now. The interesting fact is, when I was your age, or I was a student at Centrale, my path of career was already determined, because I was probably going to work for EDF or IBM, which was probably my parents' dream, to work in a big company. And specifically at that time, working as an entrepreneur or creating a company was seen as a very weird stuff. But going through Centrale, I had some triggers. I saw some successful entrepreneurs talking in theaters. So I discovered that entrepreneurship may be a valid path of career. I saw some peer students thinking about creating companies. And the real trigger was probably that as a student engineer at Centrale, you know that at that time, probably VLC, the video player, was starting, and I was part of the network association of Central. And VLC, the Videoland player, I was project manager of that project. And we saw that video streaming was a hot topic at that time. And when I graduated from Central, I thought that there were an opportunity and discussed with some colleagues. And in fact, I didn't want to work in a big company. We wanted to go on with VLC. And at that time, the biggest part of jumping into the entrepreneurship was to convince my parents, my beloved parents, that entrepreneurship and creating a company was an interesting project. I managed to do that, and we started this company called Anivia to provide video streaming services. The interesting trigger also and important moment was when we started the company. With 3 other colleagues, we received very important advice at that time in 2003. The 3 advices that we had were: never create a company with friends, because you don't mix friendship and business. You shouldn't do that. The second good advice was don't create a company with engineers. You should have a balanced team with salespeople, engineers. And the third very important advice, that they should be a leader, a clear leader. Specifically, don't split the shares in 3 or 4 equal parts. So obviously, we didn't do any of these 3 advices, because we started with friends, only engineers. We splitted the shares in 4 equal parts. So my main message will be that you should never listen to any advice from your beloved professors. So that's the important thing to remember. Jean-François at that time was here, and he was amongst the ones to encourage us and say, "Don't worry, guys. If you have the passion, if you can do something out of your project." That was an important trigger for creating the company. So Anivia, and afterwards the story of Anivia is less interesting, I would say. So Anivia was a video streaming company. We provide software to telcos, telecom operators worldwide. We had the chance, and this wasn't, I would say, very planned at that time. We had the chance to launch the company in a market, in a video streaming market, in a time where telcos, so Orange, Free, SFR and Bouygues, were starting to put TV on their network. It was a time also where iPhones, iPads were coming to the market, and people would start watching TV on their devices. So we benefited from a growing market that obviously helped the company to grow. The important characteristic. Do you have any countdown so that I can? Okay. How much? 10 minutes. Wow. The important things about this company, Anivia, we went from 4 people in 2003 to almost 100 people in 2014. Was that first, the company went international very soon. The first 3 customers were, in fact, from Canada, Spain, and Germany. The reason for that is that we were VLC. The project was known internationally. We started to have a personal network in the video streaming space abroad, and this was quite not very usual at that time to have more 80% of our revenues outside France. Which had an impact in the way we saw the world, the opportunities. We opened very soon some offices in Dubai, in the US, where we spent a lot of money and we lost a lot of money. Classic for startup to go to the US and stop 1 year after. Only Voluntis can succeed, but you'll talk about that. And it was very exciting for us to hire people and to build a culture, an international culture at Anivia. That was the first thing. The second thing, very important, is the way we wanted to grow the company. And very soon we wanted to have to grow fast, to have VCs on board. And by the way, this was a difficult discussion with the first shareholders, which is, do we want to grow, to keep the company, to own 100% of the company and self-finance the company, or do we want to open the company to VCs? So we started 2 years after creating the company to raise 1.5 million euros. Then we raised 5 million euros. And years after years, in fact, the company wasn't our company because we had to report to shareholders. We owned a smaller part of the company, and the way we see the company is different. We had the chance to put the company public on the Alternext market, which is a small, a part of the Euronext Paris stock exchange in 2014. And at that time, in fact, the company, personally, I would own a small chunk of the company. So the company that I created 12 years ago was not my company anymore, although I enjoyed growing and running the company. But it's a different story that some of my colleagues that own the company. And both, by the way, both trajectories are valid and interesting. It's just a choice that you make on the company. We had obviously very interesting time developing companies, signing, opening offices. We also had tough times at Anivia. And one moment after the round B that we did, for example, we just raised, at that time in 2010, we raised 5 million euros. So you all read in the newspaper companies raising money, and wow, it's a success, it's wonderful. And so we did that as well. But we spent money unwisely. We weren't, in fact, controlling what we did. We would hire people just to a product manager, HR, whatever. And we 6 months or 12 months after that, we saw that we spent a lot more than the growth of the revenues, and we made the decision to cut expenses. And so 6 years after creating, or 7 years after creating the company, we had a difficult moment where we decided to fire people massively. We cut 20% of the company, and from a successful startup, as a CEO, as a leader of the company, up to now it was Disney World. Everything was working, and that was a tough moment, a tough decision to make, and probably that obviously saved the company financially, and that helped us, me, as CEOs and leaders of the company to grow and to be more professional, or to understand better, in fact, what are the drivers in the company. That was a difficult moment, but obviously that saved the company. So Anivia overall was a 12-year story. The company went public. And a few months, or one or 2 years after I took the company public, I wanted as I mentioned, it wasn't my company. I wanted to come back to entrepreneurship, and specifically I had the opportunity to hire a CEO that I knew, that I trusted, and that helped me make the decision to in fact step back from the company and make a smooth transition to in fact achieve a new dream, which was to recreate a new company. And that's what I did in 2015, 2016, creating a new company called Anivia, Mooncard, which is my current company, so started more than 2 years ago. And now we are in a completely different space. We are talking about fintechs, financial technologies. Mooncard provides corporate cards for companies, and I created Mooncard because I felt the pain as a CEO of my previous company, Anivia, in expense management, banks, frustration with banks, with payments, with HR, and that's how I got the idea and the willingness to create Mooncard. What I can say from Mooncard, and maybe I have a few minutes left, 4 minutes, is that in fact I created a new company 12 years or 13 years after the first one. Many things were the same in the sense that we are disrupting a market. So not the telecom market, but the fintech market. There are some drivers, common drivers of my new company. The drivers are, we have big companies stuck in their processes and not bringing a lot of innovation, and the regulation bringing new opportunities. So in the telecom, it was the deregulation of ADSL at that time. Now in the fintech, there are new regulations so that we can manage payments and so on. That's how new companies are born, like Compte Nickel, that maybe some of you know. So it's a common driver. There are many different things about entrepreneurship, and I think it's a very good time now. It was 12 years ago, but now it's a much better time to create a company. The reason for that is that when we started 12 years ago, I was 23 or 22, and at that time, Facebook, Google, Uber, these companies didn't exist, and 23 years old, like you can be if you create a company, weren't taken very seriously. At that time, saying, "Oh, okay, you play with the companies. That's great. You're a baby businessman. You're gonna grow." And entrepreneurs were probably not taken seriously. Now, I think when you are 33, 34, and you start a company, you are taken seriously, and you can create companies. And personally, by the way, I'm now 38. I take some competitors or some employees or some new companies run by newbies very, very seriously, because the maturity of young people, of you, each is incomparable. It's much higher. Because the MBAs that you are doing, the entrepreneurship course that you have, the videos on the internet bring a lot of maturity, and that's a game changer for new companies. The second reason why it's a good time to create companies is now the way you are seen, the way young entrepreneurship is seen is a positive. You can fail. It's okay now, you can fail, it's seen as a positive thing. The government, the subsidiaries, BPIs, everybody will help you, the incubators will help you create a company. There are more business angels. So the way to bootstrap and start a project is much easier now. So I think it's a a very good moment to create a company. So my short conclusion for my presentation will be that now is a good moment to create a company. So I hope the three of us will inspire you to consider that path.
Thank you, Tristan. Marie, will you tell us about your journey in entrepreneurship?
Good evening, everyone. I'm really happy to be here. So my journey as an entrepreneur started in 2012. I'm from Central Paris. I graduated in 2004 and I did a double degree between KTH in Stockholm, Sweden and Central Paris because I'm from Sweden. So I grew up in Sweden. Yeah, and so a bit as Tristan said, when I was at Central Paris, what I imagined my career being at big companies like I started at Airbus Group, which is super normal for someone who had been at Central Paris. Then I went to the Linde Group because I was working in Germany. The Linde Group is like Air Liquide in France. They both say that they're the biggest. So, and then I went to because at that time it was about 2010. I had a really problem with my conscience because I'd always been passionate about the environment. And being at those big companies, obviously it wasn't really good for the environment, what I was doing. And I saw that I was contributing to polluting the earth. I wasn't doing anything good socially either. And at some point in time, I couldn't even watch environmental documentaries anymore because it was just too much of a discordance between what I was seeing, what my core values were, and what I was doing in my everyday life. So then I thought, if I can't even watch those, if I can't even listen to those messages, which I think are really right, because it really hurts too much, then I have to do something about my situation. I can't stay in that. I can't have that kind of everyday life anymore. So I changed company and I went to a solar company, or actually it's a big Korean group, Hanwha, and I started working as a commercial manager for the photovoltaics department. And then actually I was totally in line with the objective of what I was doing, but the management was totally crazy. So I got fired because I just there were some fishy business practices they had, and I just wouldn't do it because I thought it wasn't ethical. So then I got fired, and actually it was the best thing that could have happened because I'd already started thinking about starting my own business, and that was the kick in the behind that got me taking that step. And so I started as an independent consultant to experience what it was like to be my own boss, and trying to get some contracts. Experiencing what it is like to have your own company. And it was also a time for me to actually that was in 2012, and that year for me was the year when I realized a couple of dreams. First thing was starting my own company. Second thing was taking the black belt in karate. The third thing was moving to Paris. So I moved from Munich to Paris because I loved Paris ever since I studied at Central Paris. And I got a really good contract as a project manager, an independent project manager here in Paris. And here I have to agree with you because I also had heard people saying that don't do business with people you know really well, don't mix family, friends, and business. So this great contract was from my my godmother, who ran a startup, and it was a great opportunity for me. And while I was doing this project, I got the idea of what I really wanted to build as an entrepreneur. So, as I said, I moved from Munich in Germany to Paris, and I saw that here in France you have packages everywhere. So my trash can it would never stop filling up, and it's not that fun to take out the trashes. So I thought maybe I can start a business decreasing the trash. So I thought, so what could I do in decreasing trash? Decreasing waste, avoiding waste. And once a month there was a peak in my trash. So I think the ladies know when that peak is. So it was when I had my period and I had all the disposable period protection. I just filled up the trash can faster as usual. So I thought if I can develop a reusable period protection, that would be a great thing, because there are lots of environmental products that actually, if you look into it, they aren't that great of ideas, because there might be pollution somewhere else in the life cycle. But when I thought of this, creating a reusable period protection, it's all about decreasing waste. I mean, it's all about decreasing the material which is used. So there couldn't be any risk of this polluting more than the disposable period protection. And then I was looking on the internet for if someone had already done this, and actually there were already lots of do-it-yourself pages on how to sew your own reusable sanitary pads, and I found one that was really, it looked to be really good quality. So I contacted the lady who did this, a Swedish lady, by the way. And then we started cooperating. I tested her product. It was really great. I still have her products, by the way. And but they weren't that good looking. There was something that was bothering me, because it was really convenient, but it wasn't. There was no joy to it. It wasn't nice to look at them, and it looked like she had just taken the fabrics that were leftovers. So then I started talking about how I wanted to lift this product to friends to friends I had, and I said that what I really would love was if someone could tell me that the product I had conceived was a sexy period protection. And I said this, in a funny way, just joking about it a couple of times, and then I thought, actually, I think I'm gonna do a reusable pad in laces, and I'm gonna show you what the pads look like, the ones I sell nowadays. This is the advantage of having a product. So here's the one with laces. It's Sofialette. It's a maison de dentelle. This is with an Italian fabric, Miroglio Textiles. I think there are probably skirts in this fabric somewhere else in the world. And this is wax. Maybe you've heard about the name wax. It's the typical African fabrics. So this is one of the best sellers. And this is also a bestseller. I call them plume rose because there are pink little feathers on it. So my idea was to do an ecological, reusable period protection. This is a pad, reusable pad. But it should be sexy, it should be glamorous, it should be fun to wear, it should be nice to buy, And of course, it has to be really comfortable. So I spent a lot of time sourcing the fabric that is toward the skin. So it's super soft cotton flannel. You can touch me if you want. It's really soft. And it does happen a couple. Yeah, there is a question. So depending on the size, because this, for instance, is this is the panty liner, and yes. So this is the panty liner. This is the medium size for a medium flow. The large one is for a heavy flow, and the super one is for the night or for a very heavy flow, or when you just want to be like this in your couch. And so there. Yeah, sure. Merci. So there are different thicknesses, and if you take, for instance, if you have a medium flow and you take the larger one, then it can last for a whole day. If you have a very, just at the beginning, you have a few drops only, and you take the medium one, then it can last for a whole day. But if you have a heavy flow and you take the larger one, then it's better to have maybe 3 for the day. No, actually, now I need one back. Merci. So when you, this is the side that you bleed on, right? And when you change it, you fold it, and then it turns into an envelope. And when it's like this, it's waterproof, because there is a waterproof layer in the pad to contain the blood. And so to change them, you just fold the one you've just used into an envelope. Then you can put it in your pocket, you can put it in your bag, and you take a new one and put that one on. And you can even put this, you can store this like this for a couple of weeks. If you don't want to wash right away, you can just forget about it, or you can wash it right away. But the important thing is you don't have to wash it right away. You can store it in the waste, or in the, not the waste bags, but in the where you have the dirty laundry, and you just wash it whenever you want to wash other clothes. So it's not an additional chore. Yeah, it's not additional work at home. Yeah, there's no. It should be accredited by some health agency, right? No, not at all. I thought so too, but actually when I started informing myself about it, there's absolutely no need for that. And it's even, this is actually much healthier than the disposable pads, because maybe you've heard of a scandal that came out about 1 or 2 years ago, that they found pesticide in most disposable period protection, and the disposable period protection companies like Procter and Gamble and all those, they don't even tell what the composition is. So there is no accreditation whatsoever. I've been talking to pharmacies about selling my products in the pharmacies. I'm actually discussing with pharmacies about it, and no, there is no certification needed. And how long do you use it for? How many times? Yeah. About 200 times. Yeah. So it's really economical, it's ecological, it avoids about 300 kilos of waste per woman during a lifetime. There's another question? Yes. Can I take questions now, or? Okay. Okay. So then I just continue a few words about my path, my path with my pads. Yeah. So yeah, as you can see, this is my product. So my concept is to have a healthy, affordable, ecological, and nice aesthetical product that that is nice to wear, nice to look at, nice to handle. So it can be nicer to manage your period. And I have two branches. One is the commercial one, which is today aimed mostly to France, to the French market. And then I had another activity which is in Kenya, and this is called Beauty Waps for Girls Education. Because the problem in the developing world is that most women don't have the money to buy period protection, and the consequence for schoolgirls is that they miss school first during their period only, and then after a while you see that girls just drop out of school because they've missed too much school because of the period. So when I heard of that, I thought, it's just not acceptable today that girls can't go to school, that women can't go on with their daily life because of the period. So I started this initiative together with the headmaster of a school in a slum in Kenya. And I hired two really great women in Kenya, one that is managing all the activity with procurement. She's going out to schools to make contact, to organize distribution sessions, and that's Rachel. And then Susan, who is in charge of the actual production. She's a seamstress who used to work for another brand before. And then I had a great chance to have, again, friends and family supporting me a lot, because a cousin of mine who runs a company called Comparo, he asked me if he could have this project as his corporate social responsibility project. And he contacted a friend of his who runs two companies, Active Big and Pasa Invest. It's all three Swedish companies. So they're now my big sponsors for this initiative, Beauty Waps for Girls Education in Kenya. And so far we have been able to distribute female hygiene kits to 900 schoolgirls. And this continues now. So now it's our second year of this big sponsorship. And by the end of this week, I'm going to launch a campaign so that everyone who wants to give a kit can actually purchase one or several kits on my website, and they will receive a Christmas card, a holiday card. So this can actually be this year's Christmas gift. So look up for that on my website. And yeah, if I would give an advice, because that was one of the questions I was asked to answer, it can sound like a cliche, but it's really follow your heart, because being an entrepreneur can be really frustrating. You spend a lot of time on your own. At least I did. I started the company on my own. So it's really important to do what you feel is right. And the reason also why I founded this company was that I didn't want to waste my time. I didn't want to waste my life. I wanted to feel that I use my time in a useful way, in a way that makes sense. And I wanna be happy with what I do. I want to be proud of what I do. And also surround yourself with people that give you energy, because there are so many people that can drain you of your energy. Just don't deal with them, because there are so many people that can give you positive energy and that can really help you on the way, that want you to succeed. So that's maybe the most important advice, to pick the people that you deal with on a daily basis.
Okay, thank you very much. Etienne, tell us about your life as an entrepreneur.
Thank you, Jean-François. Well, where should I start? Here we go. Well, first I will introduce myself. So I'm Etienne. 2001, I created my company just after school. So I started. Well, I never worked for any company, and sorry, I need to get back to find where I will start, and then it will be okay. But it's always the same. When I start, it's not easy, but then I'm fine. I never, sorry, I never thought about working in a big company. I was not in this mood. So as soon as I entered in Centrale, I integrated Centrale. I wanted to create my business, and I was very happy because there were an option for creating a company at this stage, and unfortunately, when I was in second year, the option disappeared, was replaced by a filière. I don't know how you say this in English, but well, I'm quite sure this is still the same mechanism today. I don't know. Well, doesn't matter. So instead of starting working on my own business in September, I had to wait until March of my third year to start working on it. It was quite frustrating, but it was, at the end of the day, it was not so bad because summer 2000, so it was between my second year and third year, there was a first crash of the stock exchange. So before 2000, it was the Silicon Valley stuff. Well, everybody was able to write a business plan and a single subway ticket. This is what we were sold. So we're writing a few ideas on a sheet of paper, sending this to investors, and if we were talking about the web, you would get money, and you were able to create a company with 50 people in a few days. This was the case in 2000. Well, before summer 2000, and summer 2000, the first drop in the stock exchange because it was the end of the advertising model. All the web model was based only on advertisement at this stage and was not reliable. People could not make money only with advertising. So this is when the market realized it was not possible, reliable. Sorry. So it was quite hard to start a company. We were told it was not a good moment. We should wait. We should postpone our will to create a company. I was with one of my friends in Centrale. We were three actually at the beginning. One of us just left us after a few months, so we're only two, continuing the option and working with Jean-François and all the good people he introduced us to, and we were able to learn a lot from them. And in summer 2001, so it was the end of my scholarship at Centrale, we had to present our project to a board of people, VCs, people, entrepreneurs, and other people. It was a grade, so it was replacing the grade of the intern just for the scholarship, we had to get this grade, and they told us, well, you have the good mentality and you demonstrated that you should be entrepreneurs, but forget about your idea. It will not work. You're too young. And they were right. I won't talk about it because this is not the purpose of this meeting. And it was quite difficult because early summer, early July, went out of school, no project, no resume, was wondering what I would be doing, no idea which company I would like to work with. I never went to any forum to meet with big companies and to understand what were the possible option for a young student from Centrale. And I met, thanks to Jean-François, a third guy from Centrale who graduated in 1988, so 3 years before me, who went to the Silicon Valley for a few years and went back to France to create his business. And he was looking for associates, people we didn't want to create a company on his own. And Jean-François told them, you should meet with Etienne and Romain, because I see potential synergies between your projects. I must confess that when Pierre is my associate now, when he told me this, I said, well, Jean-François is just, there is nothing in common. I understood, I guess, 8 years after what he meant. He was right. So thank you for Jean-François, by the way. He's good. He's quite good at this. And I was young. So it was great because when we met with this guy, first of all, with Romain, we decided, he has good ideas, so we'll just take his idea to change our vision of our project, and we'll see if we can just start to revive our idea. It did not work because our idea was not a good one, clearly. And we finally ended up with, creating the business with Pierre a few months after this. So back in November 2001, 17 years ago. It's a company in the healthcare industry. Initially, the idea was to to bring the power of new technologies to the health ecosystem. Back in 2001, it's very far for you, I know. There were no DSL at home. There were no smartphones, not even, cell phones there were. SMS were not used at all, well, not that much. So it's quite hard to believe that what the world was in these years. But our idea was just to create a website where a patient could enter data and share it with his doctor. It was the initial idea. And we wanted to sell this to pharmaceutical companies and to provide this as a marketing tool on top of the drugs, something they would provide to doctors, so something to differentiate themselves when meeting with doctors trying to sell the drugs. And so our point was to say, if you propose a website, it's nice, it's good, it's hype, so it will be a good differentiator for your firm in order to make sure that the doctor prescribes a drug. We are quite far from this now. We're not so far because we're still in the healthcare industry, but now what we create is it's still apps for patients and for doctors. We're still trying to sell this to pharmaceutical companies, but it's no more a marketing goodie. It's a medical device. It's something that brings value to the patient, that helps the patient improve their daily life, improve their health. We're working mostly in diabetes and oncology. And if you want me to talk more about Voluntis, I'll be happy to do it afterwards, but it's not the purpose of today. So if I go back to my experience as an entrepreneur, so we created the company, as I said, in 2001, we were 3. Now we're, I don't know exactly the figures. I would say 120, 130, I don't know exactly. It's changing almost every week, and it's quite hard to follow. And I stopped following this when we reached 50, I guess. Before we went to 50, 2008, 2009, I would say. I knew everybody by heart in the company. I knew where they were coming from, where they were living, if they were married, if they would have children. Now it's not the case anymore at some point. It's not possible anymore. So the company is changing every day, and you need to adapt. And that's what I would like to say about entrepreneurship. It's all about the ability to adapt. Being an entrepreneur is a journey of adaptation, changes. Everything changes every day. The outside world changed, the context changed, the market changed, the contract changed, the client changes, and you need to adapt. And if you're not good, if you don't like to change, don't be an entrepreneur. If you like to do different things every day, every week, then that's where you should think about being an entrepreneur, because this is the best way to achieve this, clearly. If I look behind me, if I look at all that we've been doing, we've had a lot of success, a lot of issues, a lot of problems to solve, a lot of good stuff that we did, but the common point between all this is that every week, every month, there was something new. And this is what really is exciting when you're an entrepreneur. Even if it's become less true as things are growing, because you need to, and that's, I guess, what you experienced, Tristan, after a certain point when the company grow. After a certain point, you cannot manage everything. You want to, but it's not possible. You need to give up some stuff. So you need to hire some new people, you need to hire some new directors, and you need to give them some power, some truth, some some truth. No, sorry, wrong word. Some you need to trust them. Some trust. So, thanks. That's well. That's you need to give up stuff. So giving up is quite harsh. It's something I do. I did 5 years ago, and I was discussing this with Jean-François. I had some personal, quite a difficult personal year in 2013, among which my wife expected twins, and we had twins. Well, I had to support twins. It's quite a wonderful experience as well, but it's quite difficult to reconcile twins and your own company. So I had to step back a little for a couple of months. When I Wow. Good luck, yeah. We can talk about it later. But well, it was good because when I went back to the company, I had to take the decision, what would I do now? Will I continue with the company? Because, well, when you leave a company for 6-7 months, leave. Not leave, but when you're not as implied as you were before, it's quite difficult to step back again. And I had to take a decision. Will I continue? And yeah, I like my company. I love my company. I love what we're doing. And I wanted to continue because there's still a lot I can bring. The only decision I had to take was to say, now I cannot do everything. So I need to give up on certain things and focus on others, which is frustrating, clearly, but that's life. And well, and it's great that the company has been growing. I wanted to get back to a comment that you made about the fact of being young, and to the question, is there a good time to create a business? And I think there is no ideal answer to this one. I'll just give you one example of something that happened in 2002, I guess. So it was one of our first contract with a big pharmaceutical company, one of the top 10 pharmaceutical company in the world. So we were 4 in the company at this stage. So it was quite impressive for us to sign with such a big firm. And in the negotiation, they asked us, how many are you in the company? Because they wanted to get confidence in our ability to help them. So it was difficult. And we thought a lot about it, and we say, well, 4. We won't say 4, it's not serious. Well, let's say 6. 6 is good. They will have a lot of trust in a company of 6 people. So we told them 6. Now I'm looking back at this and just saying, well, it's so stupid. 6 or 4, what is the difference? But, well, I think it didn't make any difference for them. Well, clearly it is not what convinced them to choose Voluntis, clearly. Well, I hope so. What was important, I guess, was the faith we were having and in our ability to continue and to maintain a company. It's also important to find, and this is where, depending on where you are, you will need to rely on other people. After 6 months of the company, we raised our first funds. We are lucky in Central to have a very good network of, and it's the same in HEC, clearly, to have a very good network of previous people of our schools who have a lot of money now, and we are very happy to invest a few tickets in a company. So we were able to raise, it was a small amount of money at this stage, but it was 160,000 euros, which was good for 4 people. It helped us at least bring the company, it helped us maintain the company for at least 2 years, I would say. You need to rely on this kind of thing. So it was the first time we gave up something. You give up a part of your shares, so you're not controlling all the company anymore, but you need to. So just you need to find a balance between backing up your company and keeping the power, and it's always the same. Don't know where I'm going now, but well, it will be difficult to find a conclusion, and I still need to no, I'm late. A last advice. So it will be the same. If you want to make your own business, first never give up, and always have strong belief in what you think is good. So follow your heart. That's what you said. I agree. Follow your heart, and it will bring you where you want to be, for sure. And the final one, to get back also to Tristan's comment. And when I created my business, my mother was quite supportive, I would say. And she was asking me every day, is it working now? Is your company working? She's still doing this. So it's 17 years after this, still asking me, is this working? Don't know what working means, by the way, because you never know. You never know what the future will be. So, but what I was saying to people who told me, well, you're crazy to create your business now. First of all, when I left school, it was easy to live with very little amount of money every month. I was able to eat pastas and rice every day. It was not too much a difference with my student life. So it was not too difficult. I had nothing to give up, clearly. It would be different now. I have a family, I have a wife, I have kids. It would be different. Would be very different. And then what I was also saying is, if I fail, I know that on my resume it will be as valuable, if not more, than an MBA. That's what I thought, and I still believe this. If you're able to create your own business and to see that you bring this somewhere, you will learn so much in the first months that it will have a lot of values on your resume. And it's even more true today, I would say.
Thank you very much. Maybe before starting the Q&A session, just one question for you. Three of you, you are engineers. You've started companies, in tech companies. How do you manage with all the other stuff? I mean, marketing, selling, finance, people management, and stuff like that. Were you prepared to do that? Do you improvise? How did you manage that?
I'll take one example. First of all, the reason why I was able to manage all this in my company is because I had a very good teacher in entrepreneurship. His name was Jean-François Gallouin. He learned me a lot. Well, no. Yes, he did, but well, this was not my answer. So I will just give you one example. You've been trained in your previous years to learn a lot and to adapt. You don't know this yet, maybe, but that's what you learned in Prepa, mostly. The ability to adapt and to learn very fast. And that's what you continue doing in your scholarship now. I will take you the example of finance and accounting. Because I've been managing this for 5 years at Voluntis. For the first 5 years at Voluntis, I was the CFO. I was doing all the business plans. Was doing all the accounting, all the tax stuff. It's quite harsh. It's quite difficult, and I had a few hard nights just before the time where I had to declare stuff to the different ministries, whatever. I had some courses of finance and management and accounting at Centrale in my second years. I had the very good grade of 6/20. So I did not understand anything to this stuff before I put my hands into this. When you have no choice, you learn. And when you listen to advice, you will learn a lot. And you need to rely on other people that knows how this is manageable and put your hands into it, and it will be okay, I would say.
I was actually always good in the humanities. I always loved languages, philosophy, communication, and one very important thing is really rely on your intuition. Listen to your intuition, because what we learn in school is very much, school from when we start by the age of 6 or 7 until all the degrees we passed as an engineer at least. It's very much about not listening to your intuition and going into learning from books and forcing yourself to learn things the hard way. And if you take some time to contemplate and just to do nothing. Yesterday I read a little description of a book about l'oisiveté. And I think that's really powerful because you can, for instance, go for a walk and then you get a great idea about that will open paths in your business or whatever it may be in life. So intuition is really, really important, and the same is gut feeling when you are about to hire someone and you meet with some people. If the gut feeling isn't right, then you shouldn't put yourself in a position that you have to contact that person every day, because you're not gonna want to, and that's just gonna drain you of energy. And then, the other things, marketing, etc. It's some things are technical, but I think it's very much also about listening to other people and trusting other people. Listening is really, really important, because what you say, you already know it. If you listen to other people, then you will gain more knowledge.
Also question?
Same question? No?
No? Okay. It's working. I managed. I'm a professional. So the question is about long. Let me tell you one story. So I'm showing my product. I forgot to do that. So here is a credit card. When I started 2 years ago Mooncard, so I had the vision of creating a card that would help employees to fill automatically expenses, to receive a text message in real time, to be able to control the card, to disable restaurants, to enable a gas station. Well, a full feature card that was not on the market, and you should use it, by the way, to manage finances. It's much easier with Mooncard, by the way. So I started 2 years ago as a newbie. I was probably in your position. I could be 23 years old, asking questions about cards. I want a card that can perform this and that. I met, thanks to the network and to cold emailing, I managed to talk to most of the payment specialists in France, in banks, La Monétique, and talk to them and say, hey, I'm Tristan, I'm good in software, I want to do a card, how is it possible? And most of the executive and payment specialists of banks told me, Tristan, what you want to do is not possible, because technically in banks, you can't have real-time data, the payment come 2 days afterwards, the data is not available, so forget about your idea of real-time payments. And by the way, you can't control, because MasterCard or Visa, they don't allow to do this and this. So I was about to give up my idea, because I'm not a credit card payment specialist. But just one thing, technical thing, kept me alive, which is Boursorama. Boursorama, as a user, I would receive sometimes a real-time SMS. So I said, in some system, it's possible to get a real-time data. So how can I do that? And I kept meeting with other banks, payment, MasterCard in other countries. And I found a German company that was able, with a newer IT system, that was able to provide real-time and blah, 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 and blah, blah, blah. So I managed to do the product. Now I'm in a position, and this is very ironic, I'm now a specialist of payment cards, and I'm talking to French banks that want to use Mooncard to upgrade their payment system, and I'm starting, I can't disclose that, but I'm currently starting a partnership with a big bank that is going to use Mooncard and recommend Mooncard to some of their customers. So what I want to highlight here is that in 2 years, and by the way, in December, I won a national award in the payment card innovation from the profession of payment card. So the irony of all that, and you could be in that position, and I guess you're professionally suing now, maybe? Okay, which means that, in fact, with some patience, we are able, and you are able to tackle any problem if you meet with people, if we spend the time, and you will very quickly become a specialist in your field, in your new field, and that's possible for everybody, I would say.
So, do you have any questions to our guest? First question is always the most difficult to ask. Yes. You want the mic?
First of all, thank you for being there. When we hear entrepreneurs talking about their company, it's like the more the company is growing, the more they have to make some sacrifices. So do you think that the goal of a company is necessarily to grow?
Good question. Wow.
That's a very good one. My answer would be there is no answer to this question. It's your choice. So it's depending on what you want to do. Well, if you want to tackle some stuff, at some point you need to grow, yes. That's for sure. It depends on the business you're in, but if you want to address more people, at some point, if your idea is good, there will be competitors. And the bigger you are, the stronger you are against competitors. But it depends also if your company relies on a disruption, I would say. And in this case, yes, I would say you need to grow. Or if your company relies on something that is more standard and you just have a different approach. Well, if you do consulting firm, typically that's a way to create a business. Then in this case, competition is less a problem because it will be more expertise that will convince people and you don't need to differentiate yourself. If you're a game changer, for sure, if you don't grow, some people will grow beside you and will beat you at some point because, again, it depends on your cost structure, but it's the same. If you want to decrease your costs, you need to grow as well. Scaling, economy d'échelle, I don't have the word. Wow. So, no ideal answer. But again, if you're in the disrupting, innovative sector, I would say you need to grow. And getting back to the point of sacrifice, don't know if it's the right word, but giving up, yes. You're still quite young, but it's the same when you're a parent. You need to give up some stuff at some point. It's normal. It's the way life is. When you're a parent of a baby, you control everything. When you're a parent of a teenager, you need to give up some stuff. You know this. It's the same for a company. A baby company, it's easy. Teenager company, it's different. And at some point it will be an adult and he needs to grow by his own. So
I would say it depends on what you want to do. I mean, for me, it's about work-life balance. If you run a company and it works well, it gives you what you need. Maybe after a couple of years you can sell it and just live from what you've done, and so I would say ask yourself what you want to do, why you run a company, and if you don't need to grow, and if growing would just mean stress to you, don't grow.
Tristan, nothing to add? Next question? Yes.
Hi, my question is, before starting a company, how do you know if your idea is the good one? Because you told us, don't listen to your teachers or to advice. So how do you know?
You can't know. You know what, I mean, if you believe in your idea, try it. And yes, then you see if it works or not.
I think we all have plenty of ideas
No, lots of people don't have any ideas. I also thought so, because I have a list on my phone with ideas. Yeah. And when I tell some people, lots of people say, oh, I really want to start a company, but I don't have any idea. Yeah. So that most people don't have ideas to create businesses.
I think probably you should listen to your teachers about that. And this is a, how do you say that? So, this is a tarte à la crème of questions. A company is not an idea. You will see thousands of videos on the internet about that. A company is not an idea. A company is execution, is executing your idea. But you, I would say, don't need to have an idea to create a company. You should rather rely on the pain. And most of the companies that we create and the companies that are creating are based on the pain. My pain as a CEO of my previous company was to handle expenses, payments, and so on. And I thought that no solution would fulfill my my needs. This is clearly, obviously, your case, and at some point that was the case of. So the idea comes from a pain, and in fact, the probability that your idea and your business will change over the first weeks of months is huge. In fact, most of the company, especially when you start as a young entrepreneur, there is a pivot, you know, from a lean startup and so on. This kind of lean startup theory is about executing, trying incremental changes so that you match your market and product marketing and so on. So a company is not an idea. It's execution and iteration.
May I just say something about your question about growth? I think that comes from, in our society, everything is, I mean, people talk about growth as something totally natural, but now more and more people are talking about the limits of growth, and for instance, constant growth is harming the climate, the environment in a terrible way. So I think we're now, you know, at the point of a tipping point of a paradigm shift where more and more people, including myself, are convinced of growth is, I mean, we can't just continue growing.
Other questions? Yes.
Hi. Just a simple question. Given your engineering background and the fact that now you lead your company, do you miss the technical world?
Is it to the three of us?
Well, it's an easy one for me because I'm not so far from the technical world. I didn't talk about what I'm doing at Voluntis today, but I'm more in charge of R&D, and I'm still working with the teams. Well, what I was saying to Jean-François before, because I haven't seen Jean-François for a while now, my two associates are the one leading the strategy and and pulling in front of a company. I'm more in the background, pushing behind, so I'm still working in technical stuff. I remember the former director of Centrale was saying, in Centrale you will learn how to find multiple solutions to problems that don't have solution. It's a technical topic, and it's true, and you don't need to be, well, what technical means there, I don't know, but whatever you do, it will be something technical. It will be something where you need some kind of logic, some kind of intuition, some kind of abstraction, some kind of the qualities that are needed for technician. Then other answer would be, I think it's the same for, well, it depends on where you want to go, but if you go to a consulting company and for the first, well, let's take another example. If you move to a bank and you want to go to finance and you want to be a trader, for the first year you will have technical stuff to do for sure, creating macros or apps or programs to understand how the shares are moving and creating alerts. After a while, you will evolve. You will become a manager, and the more you will be managing, the less you will be involved in technical stuff. So it's not only for an entrepreneur. It will be your choice at the end. Either you want to stay and to cope with the technical stuff, or you want to manage and change. Well, it's again, all options are possible. Someone else?
I was actually doing a plan for a technical plan for présentoir, a display the other day. So I was actually, checking, doing the first concept. I was doing product development for the last couple of weeks. So there are technical things still in my work, and I'm discovering the technologies of textiles. I'm gonna soon look for a new textile that can replace my current waterproof layer. So I still do some technical things.
Yeah,
maybe even more than what I used to do when I was an employee.
Just one more comment, because make me think of something. Back in 2011, well, whatever, we had to move to a new office. It was the first time we had such a big surface to manage, 1,000 square meters. I took this project. I learned a lot. It was very technical, very new, something I never did before. Well, my father was an architect, so maybe it was in my genes, but something I never did before. Understanding how you create the plans of an office. Every day, new technical challenges will come. If you want to do some technical stuff, you can.
Tristan?
Why do you have this question? Why this question, in fact? Probably the answer is in entrepreneurship. You have more freedom to, out of the 4 associates that we had at my first company, Anivia, myself, I became more financial, sales and marketing. Although I wish I had the HEC degree to be even more marketing minded. Anyway, and one of my colleagues left the company after 7 years. He's now working at Google, so he's very technical. He's still a shareholder of the company, so he did some entrepreneurship and is now hugely technical. One of them is more into the finance and software, and the fourth is now more product oriented in my company. Anivia is still working for the company, so any path is possible. Personally, at Mooncard, I'm now doing a lot of sales and marketing, but from time to time, I'm going very deep into the technical. And sometimes I find technical solutions because the marketing is stuck, the product and the R&D say no, it's not possible. And sometimes I still manage to find some workarounds, some shortcuts to be able to deliver the customer with a workaround on the product, so to match marketing and technical stuff. And probably there are not many companies where we would have this freedom to marry sales, marketing, and very technical stuff.
I totally agree with that. And for instance, in my company, there is everything. Like you said, there's marketing, sales, purchases, and also the technical part. And for the technical part, I would do it. But for instance, graphic design, I would never do it because, and then I hire someone to do it for me. So if an entrepreneur doesn't like the technical part or thinks that he or she can't do it, then they would hire someone to do that and do the things they're good at instead. So it's more pick and choose.
Yeah.
And I must add, sorry, I must add that I think I've explored much more technical topics that I would have if I wouldn't have created a company. I can give you one example, and typically for your designer make me think about this. In 2007, we had a contract with another else company. Not so important. I was doing some theater, and I went to play my stuff between 8 and 10, and then at 10 I went back to the office because for the next morning I had to create all the leaflets for my clients. So I spent the night creating leaflets using designer tools, and then I sent them to a printer, and a few days after this we received the leaflets. I would have never done this in another context, clearly. That's the only time I did some design stuff. Not the only time, but almost the only time I did this, and it was great. And I have plenty of examples like this one where I had just to address very specific technical stuff. I can give you another one that would never happen also in another company. In our very first months of Voluntis, we had to we wanted to find some place to work at, and we were the father of one of my associates proposed us to go to one building where he was an association. Where he was member of the board of this association. So they gave us the conference room. There was no internet line in the room, no phone line at all, and we had to take a phone cable to put it through a wall that was more than 1 meter wide, because it was 20 meters, 20 levels, a 20 level building. So it was very high. We were on the floor, so very big walls, and we had nothing to help us. So we took a hanger and a spoon, and with the hanger and a spoon, we were able to install the first internet connection of the company. That's one of the good story that we like to tell to newbies at Voluntis. But it was something technical that, again, I would have never done anywhere else.
Many questions. Okay, 1 or 2 questions, because we have to watch the time.
Yeah, maybe when you answer the question, you do it short so we can take a few quick
more
questions.
questions. Okay,
it's difficult.
Here.
Good evening. Do you consider your previous experience in big companies as an advantage to create your own company after? Yeah, that's not really a question for you. So sorry.
I do, yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Why? Because
for instance, like I said, just this past week, I was designing a display device, and just the way to do the engineering, to check, to do the first design and iterate between me and the company who's actually gonna do the manufacturing of this device, check plans, do comments. I did that for the first time when I was working in engineering for the gas company, and also negotiating contracts. I learned, my first experience in negotiating big contracts was from my time as an employee. I definitely learned a lot when I was an employee. Yeah.
And would you have advices to work in big companies before creating our own business?
No, that's really your own choice.
Okay.
It's as you feel.
Thank you.
Okay, over there. Okay, go ahead.
What is your biggest mistake as far as the relationships with partners, business partners, colleagues, or investors, whatever has to do with all your business?
Yes. It's probably when I think about success and failure, this usually comes from relationships with people. It's not about me doing things so. One of the most difficult experience that we probably have is working with partners, associates, hiring people. I think this is where you make mistakes and success. I made a lot of mistakes hiring people, not communicating with people, or trying to cope with people without having the good feeling, and trying to make things work. But at the end, it doesn't work. I think this is the key. In fact, a company is a set of people, and the way you are fair with people. I try to be very fair to people, try to commit. My role and our role as leaders is to show the culture of the company. And the way you treat people, partners, investors, is going to have an impact on all the people around you, including in the company. So I personally try. Sometimes I fail, but to set an example in being fair with partner. Some investor, for example, I'm talking to a lot of investors currently. They see that I share maybe too much shares with partners. I'm being loyal to some associates coming, and I say no, I don't want to. I could contractually throw him away, but my personal, as Tristan, is to say no, I can give up a few cents of shares just to keep up, to be fair to this guy, and to set a culture of being fair. And that's how I try to treat business today. Yes.
Over there, another question. So as you grew your company from, let's say, an idea to, I guess, a few hundred or few thousand employees, how did you change your organizational structure? And you as manager, how did your function evolve? So if you talk about, recruiting, management, sales and marketing, product management, how did you allocate your time differently through the different phases of growth?
To be very, very quick on that, this is a topic you will be happy to face, by the way. Some of my associates didn't want to deal with that, so it's a freedom. They chose to leave the company after 6 years because they didn't want to deal with management, with a big organization. Personally, I liked at some stage going from a 5 or 10 people company to a 50 or 100 people company, setting some processes, a culture, hiring people, having an executive committee. I like that. At some point, by the way, in my previous company, I felt that for many reasons, I didn't have the freedom towards my board, my shareholders, and so on, to do what I wanted to do. And I became an employee of my own company, and that's why I decided to move to another story.
Maybe to complete the answer, I would say that after a certain number of years, you're the main experts of all the activities of the company, so it will be your choice to decide what you want to leave to others. And well, you have multiple responsibilities when you're a small company, and then you grew up and you say, well, the activity is growing, so I need to give part of what I'm doing to someone else. Typically, I told you I was doing accounting and finance. It was quite easy to say, well, we'll hire someone that will manage accounting and finance, and I won't manage it anymore. So it was my choice. Didn't want to manage it as well. I was managing IT. I hired someone for IT, and I kept only the project, clients, and support management, which was my third cap, I would say, my third expertise. And you have the choice, so it's your choice. And even though I hired someone, I remained the main expert because I knew so much about the company that even if technically speaking I was not the best one, I was the main expert. So, and I would, it's just one more comment. The main difficult thing in this context is to find people that will be able to tackle multiple responsibility at certain point of your growth. It's very difficult to find someone, well, when you create your new job position for someone new, you will want to give some part of marketing responsibilities, communication responsibilities, whatever responsibilities. So you need to find someone who is able to tackle all this. It's very difficult and very challenging after you become big enough to be able to have a dedicated role for one people.
Last question, and then we can have other question during the cocktail. Yes.
Good evening, and I have a question for Mary. So, driving a business, the most important is healthy cash flow. So, I think you must have a difficult stage, like you have no money for the employees. So, which solutions do you make a choice? Like you demand a bank loan, or you just search some venture capital or private equity? Because you know, in France, for foreigner, it's very difficult for young people to demand a bank loan. So we need to find a venture capital and private equity. But you need to research and you need to communicate with so many people, but it always doesn't work. So as an entrepreneur, so what did you do for this kind of problem?
For having a healthy cash flow.
Raising the capital. Raising the money.
Okay, the initial capital for me was actually savings and a heritage from my parents. It can sound like it's millions of euros. It's not. It's just what kept me going for a couple of years. So yeah, I put basically my personal savings in this. Yeah, and I don't have employees. I have freelancers. I have consultants. So I don't have that much expenses either every month. So.
One sentence. In France, you can get almost like that from BPI, 20, 30K euros. That's the first thing. Did you get the BPI?
They're not interested if you're not a tech company.
Ah, sorry about that. Even innovation, I don't know.
No, they don't call
you tried.
What I do as innovation. Because it's
ridiculous.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
In France right now, you have to be a tech company. Maybe there is a gender question too. Might be. What? A gender question, because it's not a male item.
Come on.
Might be.
Okay.
Let's work on that.
Shall we stop here?
Yeah. I think.
May I just?
Yeah, go ahead.
Because I got quite a lot of questions when I presented my product. So if you want to, I can leave flyers on the table.
Okay.
So you can have.
And
a
we
look
have
at
plenty of time after the conference.
So before we end, I have a question for Tristan. Do you know how we met? You and me.
No.
I checked my computer because I knew this guy. So it was in 2005.
Yeah.
I also met Pierre Laurent in 2005, and I gave this guy the prize of the French Senate. I was the president of the jury, and I said to him, "You won," and I will tell you, and he doesn't know why he won. Okay, you want to know? After so many years, 13 years.
This is in fact very important for me. No kidding. This was a key moment of our entrepreneurship life when we won this prize.
I remember that, and I realized that when we're telling the story, that maybe it was an inflection point in your company. Maybe you tell us. So why did we make the inflection point? We were 3 or 4 in the jury, and we saw that this guy, Tristan, was able to manage the technicality, because he's a very technical person, as well as the understanding of the market. And at that time, you had already a very good product, robust product. And so there was unanimity in the jury, and you won the prize of the software. So tell us why it was so important. Maybe you can add this.
Because we were trying to raise money at that time from first DCs. And we were, by the way, as a team, wondering if our company was a good way to proceed. And the prize, you know, it's like an award. It gives confidence to yourself to go on, and you need, as an entrepreneur, to get marks of confidence every so and then. And this help probably brought a bit of credibility on our project for investors that we were talking to. So we became a more hype project with some kind of authority, credibility, and probably you help in the fundraising process.
Yeah, it's
Thank
fun.
you,
It's
Michel.
fun to do it in front of you to reconcile this. That's great.
Okay.
I just also wanted, if they are going to be successful or not, Jean-François and myself, we saw, and Bernard, we saw so many companies in so many years. I can't even tell you now what is predictable or not. By the way, for the students who don't know this guy, he's a serial entrepreneur. He's responsible of one of the largest incubator in Paris. He's a great professor of entrepreneurship, and I want to, maybe you can applaud him because really he's a great guy. Also, I want to thank Carole. So for Centrale and HEC, these 2 ladies are the maker of all this, besides the 3 of the professors. So thank you very much. And now we are going, merci beaucoup. And now we have a little drink and a little bit of cocktail for you. Thank you.